Hi, I'm Tim Totten with Final Embrace, and I'm making this video to show other members of the funeral industry how to make personal protective equipment to replace some of that stuff you're having a hard time getting right now, and also to help keep your staff safer during this time. Now, we're actually hoping that you'll be able to reach into your community to seamstresses and other people who have fabric available and get the community together to do this. So in fact, there will be a link down in the description of the video to another version of this video that doesn't have this first part of me introducing myself to you, and it'll give the instructions on how to create this personal protective equipment fabric mask with room for a filter and a nose bridge. So let's get started. You're going to need a piece of fabric 9 inches wide by 18 inches long. You'll see that here. Now, we use 18 inches because we have serged the top and bottom edge. That's using a 4-thread overlock stitch. And of course, if you don't have that type of a machine, you could cut this to 18.5 inches, fold over 1/4 of an inch and stitch it. This is so we get some finished edges. You're going to need 1 piece of that, and then you're going to need 2 strips that are at least 36 inches long by 2 inches wide. They don't have to be cut on the bias. These can be just standard cut out of your fabric. And in fact, if you use a bolt of fabric from the fabric store, those are usually about 42 to 40 inches wide, 44 inches wide anyway. So you can just cut your 2-inch strips off of there. Now, of course, this is cut out of some of the similar fabric, or you can use regular, just solid color fabric, or you can actually use some twill tape if you have that. Now, this isn't cut 2 inches because the edges are already finished, and you can just fold that over. There's a lot of options here. You can also buy double fold bias binding already at the fabric store. It's just a little more expensive, and the way I'm going to show you here is how to use your own. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to take our piece, and we're first going to stitch a small channel at the top, about 3/4 of an inch. We're going to fold that over, and then we're going to create pleats, add our 2 strips at either side, and finish up sewing the mask. Let's go to the machine and I'll show you how that works. I'm going to lay out my piece with the wrong side up, and I'm going to fold over about 3/4 of an inch. Now, don't be afraid to use pins if you need to. I don't, because I've been sewing for almost 30 years, but if you wanted, you could pin this in place just so you feel more comfortable. And then we're going to sew just along that edge. Now, we're not sewing the entire width because I need room to be able to put that wire behind. So I'm going to do about a 5-inch section in the middle. And because we're not doing this to go to Fashion Week, we're just going to make it work. We're not worried about how specific that we measure it. I'm always going to back stitch because that's going to get a lot of wear, so I back stitched there, and then I'll use my needle in a down position. I like that on this machine. It's a nice feature. And I'm going to go about, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches there, back stitch at the other end just to lock that securely into place. You pull out and cut your threads, and then now this is secure, but I can still put my wire behind it. Then I'm going to fold the wrong side to the wrong side, and I'm going to overlap those just a tiny bit. And this is so that the person, when they're wearing the mask or going to put it on, can tell which side needs to go next to their face. And this is also going to create the pocket for that filter. Now, if you wanted to and you were a little uncomfortable, you could either you could go and base down each side. I'll just do that for you, but you don't have to. I'm going to base down each side of this just so that we get a unit that's held together. Now, those of you who are more comfortable sewers, you don't exactly have to do this because you're probably going to be able to keep all the pieces together. But let me show it for people who are maybe beginning to learn how to do this. Now, we have to put our pleats in. Remember, we have on this image, we have the pleats in here. So let's put those pleats in. And the way we're going to do that is flip this entire unit over. I'm going to flip the unit over this way. And we want pleats that face down. So I'm going to bring this unit, the top edge of the unit, down almost 2/3 of the way. And then I'm going to fold it back until this part just goes over top of here. So I fold it back. So if you look at it from the other side, you'll see how it kind of creates. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go ahead and press it with my fingers, but if you want to, again, you can use some pins. Find some pins and just pin it on the inside. Now, you may have sewn before where you pin on the outside so you can pull them out. The problem is we're going to then encase that with fabric, and it would be bad for the pins to have to come out, and you would lose your pleat anyway. So I'll pin the other one, and now they're pinned inside, and I can leave the pins until we're done. Now I need one more pleat because this is still too big for someone's face, and so I'm going to sort of put my fingers in here and create another pleat that almost goes all the way to the bottom. We're sort of replicating that same look from here down here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and pin that other pleat in place, which I'm doing now. Now when I make these, I usually can get one done in about 4 minutes, so I don't use any pins. I literally just hold it in place as I sew. But if you're new at this, go ahead and pin all of those pieces together, and now you've got your pleats in place. Now, as you'll see from the one that we had started earlier, now we need to add the straps on each side. So let me show you here. I'm going to do that with this light blue strap. And luckily it's been folded in half already, and I have sort of a seam in there, so I know where the half is. Either way, you'd have to find the half point and put it in about middle of this unit that you've created with the pleats. You want to do it on the side that doesn't have the filter opening in it, so on the outside of the mask. And I'm going to go right up to the edge. So when I put that there, now I know it needs to be in that place, and I can flip it open. We're ready to go. Now if you wanted to move your pins to the outside of this, you could, but I'm going to immediately go to the machine, and I'm going to use about a 1/2 inch seam and stitch that down. I'm making sure that I go over each edge so I capture everything. Now, if you felt like it was necessary, you could use a guide on your machine and put that there, and then you would feel exactly comfortable with where you were going. So I've done that with one, and then I'm going to flip it around and do one on the other side. So now it's time to add the second one of these straps, or the ties. Now I know where the middle is, so I will again put that in the middle, and I will put it in my machine at about a 1/2 inch. I don't need the guide for this, but you could use it, and go down to the end. Now what we've done is we've connected both of these to the mask piece. So at this point you could take out your pins, because now everything has been enclosed. So I'm going to take out the pins just to get them out of my way. And we're going to turn the entire unit over. And I'm going to flip out these strap pieces here. And you'll start to notice that it naturally folds over the ties, these strap pieces, the 2-inch binding, in about a 1/2 inch. And if we were to fold that again in half and close it, it would encase right in there. Now you could, if you wanted, go ahead and pin that in place, or you could go to your machine and iron the entire, over to your iron I should say, and iron the entire thing. But I'm going to do it by hand, and I'll show you how to make this work. You could, if you wanted, just put a small little crease in half by folding it in half, putting a little crease, and now you know where the center is, and you're going to fold both sides into that. Fold the two in, and this is going to give us finished edges at the side, and then we're going to fold the entire thing in half again. So now I have 4 layers of fabric in here, and then I'm going to sew right along this edge all the way down. Now I'll tell you a little trick that I use. I go ahead and get it into the machine a little bit past the end, put a couple stitches in it, and then I'll back off the end, and that really locks that end in place, because we're not going to do anything else to fold the end over. Then I'm going to pull all the way back with my machine, and it helps if you can put the needle in the down position. My machine already has it as a feature, but if you don't, just twist your knob on the side of the machine always toward you to hold the needle down into the down position, and now it's trapped. This is trapped and can't move. I can pull all the way back and stretch this. I'll fold over with the side that's connected to the mask. I'm going to fold that over and kind of run my finger down here. It just gives it a natural fold. With the other side, I'll do the same thing. I'll put my finger down here, and I've lined that up right next to the other fabric, and then I sort of run my finger all the way down. And now, keeping the tension, I can then sort of put my finger in here and flip it over. And so now I've literally created that entire casing that needs to go. And then I just need to slowly, or quickly, if you've got a fast machine like I do, sew all the way down. And the nice part is that it will literally, the machine will just pull it. You don't want to fight your sewing machine. Way too many people fight the fabric and fight the sewing machine when all they need to do is just sort of let it do its thing and guide it. It's sort of like letting a toddler think that they're getting their way when actually you're kind of directing them where you want them to go. And then I'm going to keep doing that down the entire other end. Now, if I want, I can leave the needle in the down position again, and again, you might have to twist it on an older machine, and then I could, putting pressure on it, pulling it back, I can straighten those edges, get them lined up the same sort of way, and then fold that in half, and by pulling the pressure on it, it kind of pulls the fabric where it needs to go, and I can kind of use my hands and really squeeze in there to get it going. So now I'm just going to keep the pressure as it pulls the machine. I'm sort of holding back like on a dog that's trying to pull on a leash, you know? And again, at the end, you need to backstitch a couple times because you really need to make sure that this is secure. We're not going to flip this over and sew it or anything, so we want it really secure so that when it goes through the wash multiple times, for that medical personnel or funeral director who's going to be using this, that it's really strong and it's not going to unravel in the wash. It's the other reason why we're using these fabric ties instead of elastic, because elastic doesn't hold up to repeated washings or even bleachings. And so we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and I'll do that rather quick, just to show you that when you really get good at this, how fast you can go. Like I said, I can throw one of these out in about 4 minutes when it's done accurately, and part of that is the ability to quickly sort of learn this process after doing it. And I've done a couple hundred of these now, so you get pretty fast after a while. And if you get really moving, your machine will start to walk itself around like mine does. It shakes everything on the table. That's how I know I'm doing it fast and good. And it bounces around. Now, I use some nice, really cute, pretty fabrics here that someone donated to us for our local program. But of course, you can use anything that you might like to use fabric-wise. I don't think it matters if it matches. Frankly, most people right now are just glad that somebody is out there in the community making this product for them, because it is so hard to get a hold of masks right now. All right, so that has now been completely done. If you wanted, you could make, you could use fabric that, thread that matched the fabric if you wanted to, but honestly, this is gonna work perfectly well for someone. And of course, you can do things a little differently. This one, I said earlier, this actually uses twill tape. This is the same kind of material that they put on gowns for medical personnel. So it's already finished. You could use that. You can also, if you wanted to, you could create this a gigantic, huge roll of it if you wanted to. They have bias tape makers. The way to use this, though, for somebody who you're going to give this to is that you can cut a small piece of wire. I use some material from a Dollar Tree that is a plant stake tying material. It's got a little cushiony, soft around a wire. It can slide right in there, about 4-inch piece of it. And then it allows them to bend it around their nose. And they can create their own filters. Some people are using high-end coffee filters. They're using some of those floor sweeper pads actually have a micron barrier in them. Or they actually have real filters that are made for other masks that could go in. So that's how you make one of our face masks. And I'll show you how this one goes on your face. You're going to put it at your nose, tie it around the back of your head, and then pull down under the chin and tie it back around. Now, the nice part about this particular mask is that now it's large enough to fit almost any face, and it'll go over one of those N95 masks for somebody who's working in the medical profession and make them last a little longer. Again, my name is Tim. I'm from a company called Final Embrace, and this is your tutorial how to make a protective mask with the fabric ties.